Cambodia National Museum History. About the museum, the National Museum of Cambodia is Cambodia's largest museum of cultural history and is the country's leading historical and archaeological museum. It is located in Phnom Penh. The National Museum is under the administration of the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts of Cambodia. The museum building, inspired by Khmer temple architecture, was built between 1917 and 1924 during the reign of King Sisawat. The museum was officially inaugurated in 1920 and renovated in 1968. The National Museum is the oldest and largest cultural history museum, as well as the country's leading historical and archaeological museum. The museum houses one of the world's largest collections of Khmer art, including sculptures, precious objects, bronzes, and some architectural works. George Grosslier, 1887 to 1945, historian, curator, and author, was the motivating force behind much of the revival of interest in traditional Cambodian arts and crafts. He designed this quintessential building that is today synonymous with traditional Khmer architecture. It is perhaps better described as a building enlarged from Cambodian temple prototypes, seen on ancient bas-reliefs, and reinterpreted through colonial eyes to meet museum-size requirements. Groslier's intended museum was soon associated with the École des Arts Cambodgiens, 1917, and became known as the Musée du Cambodge in 1919. In 1920, this museum was soon to be officially renamed Musée Albert Sarraut, after the then Governor-General of Indochina. The foundation stone for the new museum was laid on the 15th of August, 1917. Some 2.5 years later, the completed Musée Albert Sarraut was inaugurated during Khmer New Year on 13 avril 1920, en la présence de S.A.I., le roi Sisawat, François Marius Baudouin, résident supérieur, et M. Grosllier, directeur des arts cambodgiens et conservateur du musée. The original design of the building was slightly altered in 1924, with extensions that added wings at either end of the eastern facade that made the building even more imposing. Early directors of the museum from the 1920s to 1940 contributed greatly to knowledge of the rapidly expanding collection. Grosllier himself catalogued the collection, followed by Jean Boisselier and Solange Thierry, interim director, who added their individual talents to cataloging and management. Control of the National Museum and Arts Administration was ceded by the French to the Cambodians on the 9th of August 1951, and following independence in 1953, the then Musée National de Phnom Penh was the subject of bilateral accords, the 7th of November 1956. From 1956 to 1966, the museum continued to flourish under the direction of Madeleine Giteau, conservatrice du Musée National. 1966 marked the appointment of Chea Thai Singh, the first Cambodian director of the National Museum, and dean of the newly created Department of Archaeology at the Royal University of Fine Arts. This university, from its foundation as the École des Arts Cambodgiens in 1920, was intimately linked with students, artisans, and teachers who worked to preserve Cambodian cultural traditions, which can still be found to the rear of the museum. The museum closed between 1975 and 1979, the years of Khmer Rouge control, and reopened on the 13th of April 1979. The building. The museum is bordered by streets 178 to the north, Street 13 to the east, and Street 184 to the south. The museum buildings were constructed between 1917 and 1924, with the inauguration of the museum in 1920. The central section of the east facade was renovated in 1968 under the supervision of Cambodian architect Van Malavan. Physical dimensions. East facade 97.09 meters, north-south faces 72.98 meters. Exhibition galleries 2,800 square meters. Studios and stores 540 square meters. Offices and archives 1,200 square meters. Storeroom 650 square meters. Total 5,190 square meters. The National Museum of Cambodia houses one of the world's greatest collections of Khmer cultural material, including sculpture, ceramics, and ethnographic objects from the prehistoric, pre-Angkorian, Angkorian, and post-Angkorian periods. The museum promotes awareness, understanding, and appreciation of Cambodia's heritage through the presentation, conservation, safekeeping, interpretation, on and acquisition of Cambodian cultural material. It aims to educate and inspire its visitors. The main activities of the National Museum of Cambodia include exhibiting, safeguarding, and promoting understanding of Cambodia's cultural and artistic treasures. Keeping objects safe and working to ensure the repatriation of pieces stolen from Cambodia are important aspects of the museum's work, particularly as looting and illicit export of cultural material are a continuing concern. In addition, the museum strives to engage its visitors through its exhibitions and to fulfill its role as an integral part of the community. The museum believes that Cambodia's cultural heritage is of great value and can provide a source of pride and identity to the Cambodian people who have lost so much in recent decades. The availability of multilingual museum tour guides and publications, as well as the museum's public library, all serve to increase the accessibility of the collection, both for local and international visitors. Under the auspices of the Cambodian Department of Museums, the museum has responsibility not only for its own collection, staff, and premises, but also to support and oversee all other museums in Cambodia. Outside of Cambodia, the museum has an active policy of lending objects from its collection for major international exhibitions. This practice was in place before Cambodia's recent decades of unrest and was reinstituted in the 1990s, starting with an exhibition held at the National Gallery of Australia in 1992. Subsequent exhibitions have been held in France, the USA, Japan, South Korea, and Germany. The exhibitions in Australia and France have resulted in significant professional and structural assistance to the museum from the governments of those countries, and it is hoped that international exhibitions will continue to attract such support. The achievements. The turmoil of recent decades has devastated all aspects of Cambodian life, including the cultural realm. During the years of Khmer Rouge control, the museum, along with the rest of Phnom Penh, was evacuated and abandoned. The museum suffered from neglect during this time, and after the liberation of Phnom Penh on 7th of January 1979, it was found in disrepair, its roof rotten, collection in disarray, and garden overgrown. The museum was quickly tidied up and reopened to the public on the 13th of April 1979. Tragically, however, many of the museum's employees had lost their lives during the Khmer Rouge regime. The resulting loss of expertise, combined with the deterioration of the museum building and its collection, have made rehabilitation of the museum a daunting task. Despite such obstacles, the last decade has seen considerable progress, with generous assistance from individuals, foreign governments, and numerous philanthropic organizations. In recent years, the museum has successfully addressed a range of key concerns. These include the removal of a colony of bats inhabiting the museum's roof, a problem that threatened not only the preservation of objects on display, which were subject to serious damage as a result of falling bat guano, but the health of museum visitors and staff. Upgrading library holdings, facilities, and administration, and the creation of well-cataloged archives and inventory files, which are now stored in a climate-controlled repository. The first temporary exhibition at the museum since its official opening in 1920, the Ganesha of the National Museum, was held in 2000, and further collection-based temporary exhibitions have continued. Making considerable inroads in the conservation of its collection, following training and assistance from the National Gallery of Australia in the 1990s and later the French government. France continues to fund the development of the museum's conservation workshop, employing a stone and wood conservator who has successfully trained a team of Khmer staff in these areas of expertise. This funding not only supports the workshop itself, but also provides salary supplements for the staff involved, playing an active role in the restitution and subsequent care of looted artifacts. Supported by the efforts of UNESCO's International Council of Museums, ICOM, and their publications 100 Missing Objects. Looting in Angkor, 8 objects have been successfully returned to Cambodia since 1996. A further 2 are currently under investigation. Some of the pieces have been returned by private individuals, while others have come from international institutions, including the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and the Honolulu Academy of Arts. Upgrading of storage facilities. The National Museum of Cambodia Collection Storage Area, which houses some 90% of the collection, is located in the basement of the building and subject to regular flooding during the wet season. In collaboration with UNESCO, a series of improvements began in 1993 to renovate the basement to protect the collection from flood damage and general deterioration. The collaboration ensured all artifacts were placed on second automatic pump. An internal pond were introduced in 1997 to catch and dispel floodwater. Private donors have also contributed to improving the museum's storage or shelving raised above the ground. Facilities. Addressing the needs of the community. The museum functions not only as a repository and display place for Khmer cultural material, but with its collection of important Buddhist and Hindu sculpture, also addresses community religious needs as a place of worship. The permanent exhibition, Post-Angkorian Buddha, supported by UNESCO and a number of individuals and local businesses, opened in 2000 to extend the religious function of the museum. Publishing the collection. A comprehensive guidebook to the museum's collections was published in 2002 in Khmer, English, and French. Display and storeroom. On current estimates, there are 1,877 works of art on display in the museum galleries, with a further 12,320 items secured in the basement storeroom. This transposes into a grand total of 14,197 works, with a breakdown between works on exhibition, some 15.2%, and those in storage, some 84.8%. There is one special exhibition presently on show in the museum, Post-Angkorian Buddha, that opened in 2000. The Cambodia's National Museum shown and display the culture of Cambodia more than years of thousand. I hope this podcast could to visit Cambodia. Thank you.